All right, YouTube. Once again, it's Kennard Vernon Stewart here for the podcast. Talking Auburn football, go ahead and become a member of the channel. Also, get the comment section active, okay? If we get a lot of comments in this particular video, that will do something to the YouTube quote-unquote algorithm to get us a few more views in that regard. Of course, this is quality content to begin with, but the comments and the likes do help. A lot of activity going on at Auburn. As a matter of fact, Auburn was able to land a wide receiver over the weekend out of LSU. We're going to talk about that a little bit later on. And the Auburn baseball team is doing their thing, 20-plus points against Florida State, I think. Really nice game for the Auburn men's baseball team, of course. And go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. And as always, it's great to be an Auburn Tiger. War Eagle Vernon Speaks Sports back in full effect. And we're entering the stretch where we're probably about maybe a little more than 100 days before kickoff against Mercer, first game of the year. What we want to talk about today is a very important coaching combination to where they're going to have to figure this out. This is Rock Bellantoni and Jimmy Brumbaugh. Now, we're going to talk about Rock Bellantoni at first because he's the more unfamiliar name in this particular situation. Now, Auburn definitely is going to have some solidarity at these two positions, the edge position and the defensive line. And Rock Bellantoni, who served as a defensive analyst for the Tigers, he's got a lot of coaching experience. Also has been a defensive coordinator before and has served as a special teams coordinator. So he's had some experience in the role that he's being asked to play. 2018 at Buffalo, 2019 at Washington State. So he has had some Power 5 experience via the Washington State experience. So when we talk about the edge position at Auburn, some of the guys that have made it to the league over the last few years, I mean, you talk about Jeff Holland, you talk about you talk about Carl Lawson. These are positions that have helped to get Auburn players in the league in the second or third rounds, respectively. Bellantoni spent 2 seasons at Buffalo, and he also helped the defensive line at FAU and Villanova. Not necessarily a star-studded resume, so to speak, because, in the SEC, we're real big on big names. Hey, where have you been? Where have you coached? But at the same time, everybody has to somewhat start somewhere, and it's kind of hard to say that in Rock Bellantoni's case because he's been coaching for over 28 years. And that experience alone brings some positive aspect to his potential as a solid defensive coach at Auburn. Now, this is not the sugar, to sunshine pump this thing. Development is going to be key. What has he learned over the years? He's, obviously has had some experience, not at the level that he's going to have to be, that he's going to be asked to do so at Auburn at this point. But hey, you got to trust it. And also, Auburn is bringing guys in to the school that are not too bad as defensive linemen. And then you think about the fact that he's there and a lot of the defensive linemen that Auburn needed didn't leave. So that's a pretty good thing. Then we're going to go to Jimmy Brumbaugh, who is a much more familiar name in Auburn, obviously, because out of Gainesville, Florida, He actually played football at Auburn. He was a defensive tackle at Auburn, and he's very familiar with the SEC scope of things. He actually went to the San Francisco 49ers as an undrafted free agent. Not at all a successful post college football playing career, but has definitely made a name for himself as a coach. He was at Jacksonville State, student assistant, coached defensive line at Chattanooga, LSU assistant strength and conditioning coach, Tennessee co-defensive coordinator and defensive line coach, and most recently a defensive analyst at Oregon. So he's had his rounds in the SEC. He kind of knows the nuts and bolts of coaching in the SEC arena. But more importantly, we want to look at what do these guys have to work with on the defensive line. Of course, you got Derek Hall, who was one of the best in the business at the edge position last season. And Colby Wooden, in my opinion, was a huge surprise for me because I didn't think he would blossom until late in his career. But he's pretty much pushing the needle to where he might be a first, second round pick in the NFL in the next coming years. So here's what we got. You got Colby Wooden as defensive end, nose tackle Jason Jones, who's a transfer from Oregon, who I think is going to be a huge deal. Also Marquise Burks, who returns as well. And then you got Marcus Harris, the transfer out of Kansas, who made some noise as well. And then you got the edge linebacker position in Derek Hall, Iko Leota. Iko actually had a really good year last year. And then you got Bryce Hayden. And I think when we look at Derek Hall and Iko Leota, I think Dylan Brooks might make a little noise. Dylan Brooks, who was rock, paper, scissors as far as whether he was going to choose Auburn or Tennessee. He actually chose Tennessee, but debacle happens in Tennessee. Dylan Brooks utilizes the transfer portal to come to Auburn. I think that gives Auburn a really solid frame of reference as far as guys that they can utilize to continue to put pressure. I thought that Alabama game was impressive defensive-wise. I thought they did well against Houston. Also did well against South Carolina. The only collapse down the stretch was obviously the game against Mississippi State. And there were some things that happened in there. You got a crazy targeting call in that game that kind of shifted momentum. But I think game planning was definitely shaky as far as defense goes in that game. But you got a lot of guys that you can choose from. You know, Iko Leota, Derek Hall can swap out. You know, you got an interesting amount of depth there. And you got Jeffrey Mba, defensive tackle, who could probably rotate between defensive tackle and nose tackle to add some depth there. And then you have a situation where Auburn could be successful in that interior line. And I'm going to do a video on the first six. I think the first 6 games of Auburn season is going to be very important. Obviously, for obvious reasons, you build your confidence, you build your stamina, you build your conglomerate as far as, being a solid team going down the stretch. Because a lot of the things that you do in that early stage of the early stage of the season sets the stage as to how things are going to work down the stretch. We've seen that in different seasons. 2013, we didn't know what kind of team Auburn was going to have. They executed the first 6 for the most part, and then was able to kind of move the needle down the stretch. 2017, same way. Matter of fact, just to give a spoiler to the first 6, you had a situation where Auburn struggled with Mercer. Mercer was within 7 points with little time left in the game. Auburn pulled that off and then went on to beat number 1 in a 3-week span to make it to the SEC championship. All right, guys, let me know what y'all think about this video, what you think about the teamwork between, Jimmy Brumbaugh and Rock Bellatoni and what they're going to be able to do in the 2022 season. Also, go ahead and become a member to this channel. Once the fall hits, like I told y'all before, there are going to be some incentives. Especially, I love doing that prediction show. And a lot of times, y'all know, you can go back. I've been kind of spot on those things. So whoever is the first, well, not the first, but whoever comes close to getting those predictions right, there are going to be some prizes as well. Go ahead and like the video, comment, and subscribe to Vernon Speaks Sports Auburn. And as always, it's great to be an Auburn Tiger. War Eagle.